Hey crew, it's Pitt and I am back with some more Esoterica. Today we are diving back into the works of Mr. Manly Hall. This is the Secret Teachings of All Ages. We are up to chapter 12 now, which is Pythagorean Mathematics. We're reading along in the text and discussing as we go along. It's not the format for everybody, but some people seem to enjoy it. But before we begin, if you are new here, if you are unfamiliar with me, any of my unconventional beliefs, if any at any point in time you get a little bit lost in the weeds, some of the terminology throws you off, there are a couple thousand hours worth of videos that are linked up here that you can go back and find what you're looking for. The reasons why I say the things normally start at the beginning of the playlists. With that being said, we are going to dive into Pythagorean mathematics and see what he has to say. Let's go. Concerning the secret significance of numbers, there has been much speculation. Though many interesting discoveries have been made, it may be safely said that with the death of Pythagoras, the great key to this science was lost. For nearly 2,500 years, philosophers of all nations have attempted to unravel the Pythagorean scheme, but apparently none has been successful. Notwithstanding attempts made to obliterate all records of the teachings of Pythagoras, fragments have survived which give clues to some of the simpler parts of his philosophy. The major secrets were never committed to writing, but were communicated orally to a few chosen disciples. These, apparently, dared not divulge their secrets to the profane, the result being that when death sealed their lips, the arcana died with them. Certain of the secret schools in the world today are the perpetuations of the ancient mysteries, and although it is quite possible that they may possess some of the original numerical formulae, there is no evidence of it in the voluminous writings which have issued from these groups during the last 500 years. These writings, while frequently discussing Pythagoras, show no indication of a more complete knowledge of his intricate doctrines than the post-Pythagorean Greek speculators had, who talked much, wrote little, knew less, and concealed their ignorance under a series of mysterious hints and promises. Sorry. It's a high pollen day. Here and there among the literary products of the early writers are found enigmatic statements, which they made no effort to interpret. The following example is quoted from Plutarch. The Pythagoreans, indeed, go farther than this, and honor even numbers in geometrical diagrams with the names and titles of the gods. Thus, they call the equilateral triangle head-born Minerva and Tritogenia, because it may be equally divided by three perpendiculars drawn from each of the angles. So the unit they term Apollo. As to the number 2, they have affixed the name of strife and audaciousness, and to that of 3, justice. For as doing an injury is an extreme on one side, and suffering one is an extreme on the one side, and suffering in the middle between them. In like manner, the number 36, their tetractys, or sacred quaternion, being composed of the first 4 odd numbers added to the first 4 even ones, is commonly reported, is looked upon by them as the most solemn oath they can take, and called cosmos. And we are going to pause right here, and I'm going to say something, and it's probably going to piss you off if you're watching this particular video. But I do believe the numbers are important, right? The number 1, 3, 8, very important. It contains the entirety of manifestation in those 3 numbers. Several other numbers can be important. If you see them, some triple numbers, if you see them in a pattern, it's trying to tell you something. Other numbers add up to things, but if you are doing too much math, you're doing it wrong. I love math. I do. I love the way that everything works out exactly the way that it's supposed to. But if you were trying to work manifestation through math, you are doing it wrong. If you are adding up 14 different numbers and trying to come up with the solution for the future, you are doing it wrong. If you are living your life entirely by how numbers add up, you are doing it wrong. Now, that's not to say that you cannot get effects, because investment of energy is a real thing. And putting your energy where you want it, regardless of how you get it there, will get you there. But you're taking the long way around. You are running a marathon when it really is a sprint. It really is as simple as investing the energy. It really is as simple as the simple things. If it is too complicated, it is the wrong thing. So if you're having to add up several different digits to get to the point where you want, you're wrong. There is a fundamental truth in mathematics, and those fundamental truths in mathematics, and particularly geometry, can help you in your quest to manifest things in your life. But getting tied down, as this cult does, into the numbers is too much. All these people running around with the Bible code, and if you take the fourth letter of every third word and you put them together, it forms a sentence. You're an idiot. And I hate to put it that bluntly, but it is really got to be that bluntly. If you are walking around looking for these hidden codes, you can find that shit anywhere. You can go through this, and I am sure that there is a formula that will allow you to pull out some kind of divination. That does not mean that this is divine. This does not mean that this is how you should be doing anything, right? Too much math is a problem. Not any math is also a problem. There are significance to numbers. We talk about them in the tarot. We talk about them in other videos, and we will talk about them again. But if you have to do complicated math, you're probably doing it wrong. It really is that simple, and it sounds arrogant to say that, but it is the truth. Like, I'm operating from results when I talk about these things. Earlier in the same work, Plutarch also notes, "For as the power of the triangle is expressive of the nature of Pluto, Bacchus, and Mars, and the properties of the square of Rhea, Venus, Ceres, Vesta, and Juno, of the dodecahedron of Jupiter, so, as we are informed by Eudoxus, is the figure of 56 angles, expressive of the nature of Typhon." Plutarch did not pretend to explain the inner significance of the symbols, but believed that the relationship which Pythagoras established between the geometrical solids and the gods was the result of the images of the great sage had seen in the Egyptian temples. Albert Pike, the great Masonic symbolist, admitted that there were many points concerning which he could secure no reliable information. In his Symbolism for the 32nd degree and 33rd degree, he wrote, "I do not understand why the 7 should be called Minerva, or the cube Neptune." Further on, he added, "Undoubtedly the names given by the Pythagoreans to the different numbers were themselves enigmatical and symbolic, and there is little doubt that in the time of Plutarch the meanings of these names concealed were lost. Pythagoras has succeeded too well in concealing his symbols with a veil that was from the first impenetrable, without his oral explanation. The uncertainty shared by all true students of the subject proves conclusively that it is unwise to make definite statements founded on the indefinite and fragmentary information available concerning the Pythagorean system of mathematical philosophy. The material which follows represents an effort to collect a few salient points from the scattered records preserved by the disciples of Pythagoras and others who have since contacted his philosophy. Method of securing the numerical power of words. The first step in obtaining the numerical value of a word is to resolve it back into its original tongue. Only words of Greek or Hebrew derivation can be successfully analyzed by this method, and all words must be spelled in their most ancient and complete forms. Old Testament words and names, therefore, must be translated back into the early Hebrew characters, and New Testament words into the Greek. 2 examples will help to clarify this principle, and this is exactly what I meant when I was talking about if you add too many things together, you are doing it wrong. The demiurgus of the Jews is called in English Jehovah, but when seeking the numerical value of the name Jehovah, it is necessary to resolve the name into its Hebrew letters. It becomes Yahweh, and it is read from right to left. The Hebrew letters are Hod, are he, vau, he, yod, and when reversed into the English order from left to right, read yod, he, vau, he. By consulting the foregoing table of letter values, it is found that the 4 characters of this sacred name have the following numerical significance. Yod equals 10, he equals 5, vau equals 6, and the second he equals 5. Therefore, 10 plus 5 plus 6 plus 5 equals 26, a synonym of Jehovah. If the English letters were used, the answer obviously would not be correct. The second table is the mysterious Gnostic Pantheos Abraxas. For this name, the Greek table is used. Abraxas in the Greek is that A equals 1, B equals 2, P equals 100, A equals 1, that equals 60, A equals 1, and that equals 200, the sum being 365. The number of days in the year, almost. This number furnishes the key to the mysteries of Abraxas, who is symbolic of the 365 eons, or spirits of the days, gathered together in one composite personality. Abraxas is symbolic of 5 creatures, and as the circle of the year actually consists of 360 degrees, each of the emanating deities is 1/5 of this power, or 72. One of the most sacred numbers in the Old Testament of the Jews and in their Kabbalistic system. This same method is used in finding the numerical value of the names of the gods and goddesses of the Greeks and the Jews, and that is absolutely pointless. I know, I'm stepping on toes with that one, but if you don't know by now that I step on toes, I don't know what to tell you, right? I don't do it unintentionally. I just can't help the way that I'm built, and this is dumb. It really is. Like, I get the why. Like, I really do, on a level that you probably don't. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you should check out the MBTI playlist, because I know why people get keyed up in this. I do. I talk about it all of the time. This is the SI really catching you. It's on the opposite end of what I have, but this is exactly what I'm talking about when you get caught up in the hero, right? The SI hero is all about adding these numbers up, right? The TI a little bit, the TE a little bit, but the SI hero is all about this shit. They're like, oh, no. If you add this and this and this and this, you get this perfect number. That exactly is what I am talking about. And that right there, it is a mental thing. It is something that you need to get control of. It is a superpower. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying that it is a disability, right? All of the hero slots are superpowers when you have control of them. Right? It is your particular superpower. You are better than 15 other types of people at this one particular thing. But you have to be in control of it. It cannot be in control of you, because if it is in control of you, you wind up making YouTube videos where you're going through the Bible and adding up everybody's name to see if it matches. Donald J. Trump equals 666, and oh my God, it's the end of the world. That's a problem. That's something that you need to get a hold of, and I have a playlist that will help you do that. It is linked in the top. Infinite integrations and the MBTI parts both will get you there. All higher numbers can be reduced to one of the original 10 numbers, and the 10 itself to 1. Therefore, all groups of numbers resulting from the translation of names of deities into their numerical equivalents have a basis in one of the first 10 numbers. If you are doing simple simplification, right? The tarot is a good example. You pull out 12, right? Whatever the 12 happens to be, that reduces to 3, and that is telling you that you are just past the choice and you are at the point of learning, right? That's what the 3 signifies. Simple reduction is one thing, but if you are having to reduce 15 numbers down to 1, you're making it overly complicated, right? The simplification is for current energies. It is for what is happening around you now, right? When you pull a tarot card, that's what's happening. It is reading the energy around you now, but it is not capable of doing it way off in the future. It really messes up the further off you get. If you're not dealing with a day or two in the future, you're probably going to wind up misled and have to reread. The same was true with these prophets and these other people. The same is true with all of these people who are reading too much into this system. It's simple simplification, it's fine. If it is multiple simplifications, It's not going to work. By this system, in which the digits are added together, 666 becomes 6 plus 6 plus 6, or 18, and this in turn becomes 1 plus 8, or 9. According to Revelation, 144,000 are to be saved. This number becomes 1 plus 4 plus 4 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0, which equals 9, thus proving that both the beast of Babylon and the number of the saved refer to man himself, whose symbol is the number 9. No, it's not. This system can be used successfully with both Greek and Hebrew letter values. The original Pythagorean system of numerical philosophy contains nothing to justify the practice now in vogue of changing the given name or surname in the hope of improving the temperament or financial condition by altering the name vibrations. There is also a system of calculation in vogue for the English language, but its accuracy is a matter of legitimate dispute. It is comparatively modern and has no relationship either to Hebrew Kabbalistic system or the Greek procedure. The claim made by some that it is Pythagorean is not supported by any tangible evidence, and there are many reasons why such a contention is untenable. The fact that Pythagoras used 10 as the basis of calculation while this system uses 9, a imperfect number, is in itself almost conclusive. Furthermore, the arrangement of the Greek and Hebrew letters does not agree closely enough with the English to permit the application of the number sequences of one language to the number sequences of the others. Further experimentation with... Where's the continuation? Further experimentation with column, I guess, name of here. What is going on here? That is explaining this. Where is the continuation? I like to finish there. There it is, my bad. Okay, so further experimentation with the system may prove profitable, but it is without any basis in antiquity. The arrangement of the letters and numbers is as follows. That is this chart, which is, wrong. This is the original charts, right? Aleph, Beth, Gimel, Daleth, Hey, Vav, Yal, Zion. And this is the numerical values assigned to each of them. This is the Greek over here, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, Epsilon. The numerical values of the Hebrew, Greek, and Samaritan alphabets, which is important because Samaria was definitely a significant problem for anybody wanting to go with the Old Testament for pretty much anything whatsoever. And this explanation of the columns, I'm just going to not do. The letters under each of the numbers have the value of the figure at top, the top of the column. Thus, the word man, M4, A1, N5, is a total of 10. The values of the numbers are practically the same as those given by the Pythagorean system. All right, so first off, there is significant problem here, right? We talk about numbers, right? Adding numbers is probably wrong, but there are significant numbers. 10 is a significant number. It is the number of math. It is by what we use to do our counting and all of those things. But the number of creation is 8. So, if you were not going to have 10, then this should have been 8. That is an immutable fact, right? 7 works, but only as 8 is the new beginning, and it is incorporated in the 7. It is not necessarily part of the 7, but it is one as the repeated lesson. 8 is the number of creation. 8 is the number of all things, right? It is binary. Binary works off of code 8. 64-bit graphics, right? The very foundation of you watching me comes off of the number 8, not 10. There are 8-point graphics in how this display is set out and how the computing is done inside of the processor and inside of the memory storage that allows me to change it to where you can watch it. All of those things are governed by the number 8. Nothing is governed by simply 9. There are things governed by 10. There are things governed by 8. There are things governed by 3. There are things governed by 1. There's nothing governed by just 9. As far as I know, if you have something that will give me different a different reason to believe that, you are more than welcome to leave it down below. We will investigate it and we will go through it and talk about it just like we do here. I just don't believe that it exists. An introduction to the Pythagorean theory of numbers. The following outline of Pythagorean mathematics is a paraphrase of the opening chapters of Thomas Taylor's Theoretic Arithmetic, the rarest and most important compilation of Pythagorean mathematical fragments extant. The Pythagoreans declared arithmetic to be the mother of the mathematical sciences. This is proved by the fact that geometry, music, and astronomy are dependent upon it, but it is not dependent upon them. Thus, geometry may be removed, but arithmetic will remain. But if arithmetic be removed, geometry is eliminated. In the same manner, music depends upon arithmetic, but the elimination of music affects arithmetic only by limiting one of its expressions. The Pythagoreans also demonstrated arithmetic to be prior to astronomy, for the latter is dependent upon both geometry and music. The size, form, and motion of the celestial bodies is determined by the use of geometry, their harmony and rhythm by the use of music. If astronomy be removed, neither geometry nor music is injured. But if geometry and music be eliminated, astronomy is destroyed. The priority of both geometry and music to astronomy is therefore established. Arithmetic, however, is prior to all. It is primary and fundamental. Pythagoras instructed his disciples that the science of mathematics is divided into two major parts. The first is concerned with the multitude, or the constituent parts of a thing, and the second with the magnitude, or the relative size and density of a thing. Magnitude is divided into two parts, magnitude which is stationary and magnitude which is movable, the stationary part having priority. Multitude is also divided into two parts, for it is related both to itself and to other things, the first relationship having priority. Pythagoras assigned the science of arithmetic to multitude related to itself, and the art of music to multitude related to other things. Geometry, likewise, was assigned to stationary magnitude and spherics, used partly in the sense of astronomy, to movable magnitude. Both multitude and magnitude were circumscribed by the circumference of mind. The atomic theory has proved size to be the result of number, for a mass is made up of minute units, though mistaken by the uninformed for a single, simple substance. Owing to the fragmentary condition of the existing Pythagorean records, it is difficult to arrive at the exact definitions of terms. Before it is possible, however, to unfold the subject further, some light must be cast upon the meanings of the words number, monad, and one. The monad signifies the all-including one. The Pythagoreans called the monad the noble number, sire of gods and men. The monad also signifies b. the sum of any combinations of numbers considered as the whole. Thus, the universe is considered as a monad, but the individual parts of the universe, such as the planets and elements, are monads in relation to the parts of which they themselves are composed, though they, in turn, are parts of the greater monad formed of their sum. The monad may also be likened, c, to the seed of a tree, which, when it has grown, has many branches, the numbers. In other words, the numbers are to the monad what the branches of the tree are to the seed of the tree. From the study of the mysterious Pythagorean monad, Leibniz evolved his magnificent theory of the world atoms, a theory in perfect accord with the ancient teachings of the mysteries. For Leibniz himself was an initiate of a secret school. By some Pythagoreans, the monad is also considered synonymous with the one. Number is the term applied to all numerals and their combinations. A strict interpretation of the term number by certain of the Pythagoreans excludes 1 and 2. Pythagoras defines number to be the extension and energy of the spermatic reasons contained in the monad. The followers of Hippasus declared number to be the first pattern used by the demiurgus in the formation of the universe. The one was defined by the Platonists as the summit of the many. The one differs from the monad in that the term monad is used to designate the sum of the parts considered as a unit, whereas the one is the term applied to each of its integral parts. There are two orders of numbers, odd and even, because unity, or one, always remains indivisible. The odd number cannot be divided equally. Thus, 9 is 4 plus 1 plus 4, the unity in the center being indivisible. Furthermore, if any odd number be divided into two parts, one part will always be odd and the other even. Thus, 9 may be 5 plus 4, 3 plus 6, 7 plus 2, or 8 plus 1. The Pythagoreans considered the odd number, of which the monad was the prototype, to be definite and masculine. They were not all agreed, however, as to the nature of unity, or 1. Some declared it to be positive because if added to an even negative number, it produces an odd positive number. Others demonstrated that if unity be added to an odd number, the latter becomes even, thereby making the masculine to be feminine. Unity, or 1, therefore, was considered an androgynous number, partaking of both the masculine and the feminine attributes. Consequently, both odd and even. For this reason, the Pythagoreans called it evenly odd. It was customary for the Pythagoreans to offer sacrifices of an uneven number of objects to the superior gods, while to the goddesses and subterranean spirits an even number was offered. Any even number may be divided into two equal parts, which are always either both odd or both even. Thus, 10 by equal division gives 5 plus 5, both odd numbers. The same principle holds true if the 10 be unequally divided. For example, in 6 plus 4, both parts are even. In 7 plus 3, both parts are odd. In 8 plus 2, both parts are again even. And in 9 plus 1, both parts are again odd. Thus, in the even number, however it may be divided, the parts will always be both odd or both even. The Pythagoreans considered the even number, of which the duad was the prototype, to be indefinite and feminine. The odd numbers are divided by a mathematical contrivance called the sieve of Eratosthenes into three general classes: incomposite, composite, and incomposite composite. The incomposite numbers are those which have no divisor other than themselves and unity, such as 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, 29, 31, 37, 41, 43, 47, and so forth. The prime numbers. For example, 7 is divisible only by 7, which goes into itself once, and unity, which goes into 7 times. The composite numbers are those which are divisible not only by themselves and unity, but also by some other numbers, such as 9, 15, 21, 25, 27, 33, 39, 45, 51, 57, and so forth. For example, 21 is divisible not only by itself and by unity, but also by 3 and by 7. The incomposite composite numbers are those which have no common divisor, although each of itself is capable of division, such as 9 and 25. For example, 9 is divisible by 3 and 25 but 5, but neither is divisible by the divisor of the other. Thus, they have no common divisor. Because they have individual divisors, they are called composite, and because they have no common divisor, they are called in composite. Accordingly, the term incomposite composite was created to describe their properties. Even numbers are divided into three classes: evenly even, evenly odd, and oddly odd. The evenly even numbers are all duple ratio from unity. Thus, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, and 1024. Base 8. The proof of the perfect evenly number is that it can be halved, and the halves again halved back to unity, as 1/2 of 64 is 32, and 1/2 of 32 is 16, and 1/2 of 16 is 8. 1/2 of 8 is 4, 1/2 of 4 is 2, and 1/2 of 2 is 1. Beyond unity it is impossible to go. The evenly even numbers possess certain unique properties. The sum of any number of terms, but the last term is always equal to the last term minus 1. For example, the sum of the first and second terms, 1 plus 2, equals the third term, 4. What? Or one of the sum of the first, second, third, and fourth terms, 1 plus 2 plus 4 plus 8, equals the fifth term, 16 minus 1. Okay, so the minus 1, I got you. I'm like, how the fuck is that? That was some Billy Carson math. In a series of Terrence Howard, not Billy Carson. In a series of evenly even numbers, the first multiplied by the last equals the last. The second multiplied by the second from the last equals the last, and so on until an odd series of 1 numbers remain, which multiplied by itself equals the last number of the series, or in an even series, 2 numbers remain, which multiplied by each other give the last number of the series. For example, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16 is an odd series. The first number, 1, multiplied by the last number, 16, equals the last number, 16. The second number, 2, being multiplied by the second from the last number, 8, equals the last number, 16. Being an odd series, the 4 is left in the center, and this is multiplied by itself, also equals the last number, 16. See, this is where you're just getting too complicated. There's no point in that. Like, yes, it works. Math is a thing. Ooh. The evenly odd numbers are those which, when halved, are incapable of further division by halving. They are formed by taking the odd numbers in sequential order and multiplying them by 2. By this process, the odd numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and 11 produce the evenly odd numbers 2, 6, 10, 14, 18, 22. Thus, every fourth number is evenly odd. Each of the even-odd numbers may be divided once, as 2, which becomes 2 ones and cannot be further divided, or 6, which becomes 2 threes and cannot be divided further. Another peculiarity of the evenly odd numbers is that if the divisor be odd, the quotient is always even, and if the divisor be even, the quotient is always odd. For example, if 18 be divided by 2, an even divisor, the quotient is 9, an odd number. And if 18 be divided by 3, an odd divisor, the quotient is 6, an even number. The evenly odd numbers are also remarkable in that each term is 1/2 of the sum of the terms on either side of it. For example, 10 is 1/2 of the sum of 6 and 14. 18 is 1/2 of the sum of 14 and 22. And 16 is 1/2 of the sum of 2 and 10. See, that's dumb. That doesn't make any sense. Like, yes, it's true. Math works. The sieve of Eratosthenes. The series of odd numbers which are measured by 7. The series of odd numbers which are measured by 5. The series of odd numbers which are measured by 3. Odd numbers. This is in the original source material. You are more than welcome to go back and look through it for yourself, but we're going to read through the description here. The sieve is a mathematical device originated by Eratosthenes about 230 BC for the purpose of segregating the composite and incomposite odd numbers. Its use is extremely simple after the theory has once been mastered. All the odd numbers are first arranged in their natural order as shown in the second panel from the bottom, designated odd numbers. It will then be seen that every third number, beginning with 3, is divisible by 3. Every fifth number, beginning with 5, is divisible by 5. Every seventh number, beginning with 7, is divisible by 7. Every ninth number, beginning with 9, is divisible by 9. No shit, Sherlock. Every 11th number, beginning with 11, is divisible by 11, and so on to infinity. This system finally sifts out what the Pythagoreans called the incomposite numbers, or those having no divisor other than themselves and unity. These will be found in the lowest panel, designated primary and incomposite numbers. In his History of Mathematics, David Eugene Smith states that Eratosthenes was one of the greatest scholars of Alexandria, and was called by his admirers the second Plato. Like, it is impressive to discover this if it has never been discovered before, but this is literally how math works. And while it is great that he did that, it is not divinatory, right? It's not expressing how to divine something into the future. Eratosthenes was educated at Athens and is renowned not only for his sieve but for having computed by a very ingenious method the circumference and diameter of the Earth. That's awesome. His estimate of the Earth's diameter was only 50 miles less than the polar diameter accepted by modern scientists. This and other mathematical achievements of Eratosthenes are indisputable evidence that in the 3rd century before Christ, the Greeks not only knew the Earth to be spherical in form, but could also approximate with amazing accuracy its actual size and distance from both the sun and the moon. Aristarchus of Samos, another great Greek astronomer and mathematician who lived about 250 BC, established by philosophical deduction and a few scientific instruments that the Earth revolved around the sun. While Copernicus actually believed himself to be the discoverer of this fact, he but restated the findings advanced by Aristarchus 1700 years earlier. The evenly odd or unevenly even numbers are a compromise between the evenly even and evenly odd numbers. Unlike the evenly even, they cannot be halved back to unity, and unlike the evenly odd, they are capable of more than one division by halving. The oddly odd numbers are formed by multiplying the evenly even numbers above 2 by the odd numbers above 1. The odd numbers above 1 are 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and so forth. The evenly even numbers above 2 are 4, 8, 16, 32, and 64, base 8, and soon. The first odd number of the series, multiplied by 4, the first evenly even number of the series gives 12, the first oddly odd number. By multiplying 5, 7, 9, 11, and so forth by 4, oddly odd numbers are found. The other oddly odd numbers are produced by multiplying 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and so forth, in turn, by the other evenly even numbers, 8, 16, 32, 64, and so forth. An example of the halving of the oddly odd number is as follows. 1/2 of 12 equals 6, 1/2 of 6 equals 3, which cannot be halved further because Pythagoreans did not divide unity. Even numbers are also divided into 3 other classes: superperfect, deficient, and perfect. Superperfect or superabundant numbers are such as have the sum of their fractional parts greater than themselves. For example, 1/2 of 24 is 12, 1/4 equals 6, 1/3 equals 8, 1/6 equals 4, 1/12 equals 2, and 1/24 equals 1. The sum of these parts, 12 plus 6 plus 8 plus 4 plus 2 plus 1, is 33, which is in excess of 24. The original number. Deficient numbers are such as have the sum of their fractional parts less than themselves. For example, 1/2 of 14 is 7, 1/7 is 2, 1/14 is 1. The sum of these parts, 7 plus 2 plus 1, is 10, which is less than 14, the original number. Perfect numbers are such as have the sum of their fractional parts equal to themselves. For example, 1/2 of 28 equals 14, 1/4 equals 7, 1/7 equals 4, 1/14 equals 2, and 1/28 equals 1. The sum of these parts, 14 plus 7 plus 4 plus 2 plus 1, is equal to 28. The perfect numbers are extremely rare. There is only one between 1 and 10, namely 6. Only one between 10 and 100, namely 28. One between 100 and 1,000, namely 496. And one between 1,000 and 10,000, namely 8,128. The perfect numbers are found by the following rule. The first number of the evenly even series of numbers, 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, and so forth, is added to the second number of the series, and if an incomposite number results, it is multiplied by the last number of the series of unevenly even numbers, whose sum produced it. The product is the first perfect number. For example, the first and second evenly even numbers are 1 and 2. Their sum is 3, an incomposite number. If 3 is multiplied by 2, the last number of the series of evenly even numbers used to produce it, the product is 6, the first perfect number. If the addition of evenly even numbers does not result in an incomposite number, the next evenly even number of the series must be added until an incomposite number results. The second perfect number is found in the following manner. The sum of the evenly even numbers 1, 2, and 4 is 7, an incomposite number. If 7 be multiplied by 4, the last of the series of evenly even numbers used to produce it, the product is 28, the second perfect number. This method of calculation may be continued into infinity, which is what makes it useless. Like, it's useful in math, right? It is useful in calculations. It is useful in designing things, but it is not useful in metaphysical anything, right? This is too much math for it to be effective in what you need from the numbers. The Pythagoreans evolved their philosophy from the science of numbers. The following quotation from Theoretic Arithmetic is an excellent example of this practice. Perfect numbers, therefore, are beautiful images of the virtues which certain media between excess and defect, and are not summits, as by some of the ancients they were supposed to be. The evil, indeed, is opposed to evil, but both are opposed to one good. Good, however, is never opposed to good, but to two evils at one and the same time. Thus, timidity is opposed to audacity, to both of which the want of true courage is common. But both timidity and audacity are opposed to fortitude. Craft also is opposed to fatuity, to both of which the want of intellect is common. And both of these are opposed to prudence. Thus, too, profusion is opposed to avarice, to both of which our illiberality is common. And both of these are opposed to liberality, and in a similar manner in the other virtues. By all of which it is evident that the perfect numbers have the greatest similitude to the virtues, but they also resemble the virtues on another account. For they are rarely found, as being few, and they are generated in a very constant order. On the contrary, an infinite multitude of superabundant and diminished numbers may be found, nor are they disposed in any orderly series, nor generated from any certain end, and hence they have the great similitude to the vices, which are numerous, inordinate, and indefinite. Not true. That's not true. We have dealt extensively in this one, right? There are 7 virtues, there are 7 vices. They are inextricably linked. They are polar opposites of the same scale. One is 0, one is 100, right? You're meant to live about 50, but the virtues and the vices are on the same scale, and there are 7 of them. If you are unfamiliar with that concept, inside the Bible study, I have a video called The Facets of God, right? I'm pretty sure that's the name. It's something along those lines. The 7 facets, the facets of God, the 7 faces of God, something along those lines, where we discuss biblically where that fits in. And we have several other videos where we talk about the virtues and vices and how life is meant to be a balance of the 7. And so there are not numerous, inordinate, and indefinite vices. They can all, no matter if you believe this or not, right? Whatever you are calling a vice, if you believe this, can be fit into one of the 7. And 7, of course, being the beginning of the next cycle, making 8, so 7 is the number. The table of the 10 numbers. The following outline of the Pythagorean numbers is a paraphrase of the writings of Nicomachus, Theon of Smyrna, Proclus, Porphyry, Plutarch, Clement of Alexandria, Aristotle, and other early authorities. Monad 1 is so called because it remains always in the same condition, that is, separate from the multitude. Its attributes are as follows. It is called mind, because the mind is stable and has preeminence. Hermaphrodism, because it is both female, male and female. Odd and even, for being added to the even, it makes it odd, and to the even, odd, even. That is dumb. God, because it is the beginning and end of all, but itself has neither beginning nor end. Good, for such is the nature of God, the receptacle of matter, because it produces the duad, which is essentially material. By the Pythagoreans, monad was called chaos, obscurity, chasm. Tartarus, Styx, Abyss, Lethe, Atlas, Axis, Morpho, a name for Venus, and Tower, or throne of Jupiter, because of the great power which abides in the center of the universe and controls the circular motion of the planets about itself. Monad is also called germinal reason, because it is the origin of all the thoughts in the universe. Other names given to it were Apollo, because of its relation to the sun; Prometheus, because he brought man light; Paralios, one who exists in fire; Geniture, because without it no number can exist; Substance, because substance is primary, cause of truth; and Constitution of symphony, all these because it is the primordial one. Between greater and lesser, the monad is equal; between intention and remission it is middle; in multitude it is mean; and in time it is now, because eternity knows neither past nor future. It is called Jupiter, because he is father and head of the gods; Vesta, the fire of the home, because it is located in the midst of the universe and remains there, inclining to no side as a dot in a circle; Form, because it circumscribes, comprehends, and terminates; Love, concord, and piety, because it is indivisible. Other symbolic names for the monad are ship, chariot, Proteus, a god capable of changing his form, Mnemosyne, and Polynomus, having many names. The following symbolic names were given to the duad: 2, because it has been divided and is 2 rather than 1. When there are 2, each is opposed to the other: genius, evil, darkness, inequality, instability, movability, boldness, fortitude, contention, matter, dissimilarity, perition, between multitude and monad, defect, shapelessness and indefiniteness, indeterminateness, harmony, tolerance, root, feet of fountain, abounding idea, top, phanes, opinion, fallacy, alertude, diffidence, impulse, death, motion, generation, mutation, division, longitude, augmentation, composition, communion, misfortune, sustentation, imposition, marriage, soul, and science. In his book, Numbers, W. Wynne Westcott says of the duad, it was called audacity from its being the earliest number to separate itself from the divine one, from the adidium of God-nourished silence, as the Chaldean oracles say. As the monad is the father, so the duad is the mother. Therefore, the duad has certain points in common with the goddesses Isis, Rhea, Jove's mother, Phrygia, Lydia, Dendamine, Sybil, and Ceres; Erato, one of the muses; Diana, because the moon is forked; Dictana, Venus; Dione, Cytherea, Juno, because she is both wife and sister of Jupiter; and Maia, the mother of Mercury. While the monad is the symbol of wisdom, the duad is the symbol of ignorance, for in it exists the sense of separateness, which sense is the beginning of ignorance. The duad, however, is also the mother of wisdom, for ignorance, out of the nature of itself, invariably gives birth to wisdom. The Pythagoreans revered the monad, but despised the duad, because it was the symbol of polarity. By the power of the duad the deep was created in contradistinction to the heavens. The deep mirrored the heavens and became a symbol of illusion, for the below was merely a reflection of the above. The below was called Maya, the illusion, the sea, the great void, and to symbolize it, the Magi of Persia carried mirrors. From the duad arose disputes and contentions, until, by bringing the monad between the duad, equilibrium was re-established by the Savior God, who took upon himself the form of a number and was crucified between 2 thieves for the sins of men. That really makes my head hurt. The triad, 3, is the first number actually odd, monad not always being considered a number. It is the first equilibrium of unities. Therefore, Pythagoras said that Apollo gave oracles from a tripod and advised offer of libation 3 times. The key words to the qualities of the triad are friendship, peace, justice, prudence, piety, temperance, and virtue. The following deities partake of the principles of the triad: Saturn, ruler of time; Latona, cornucopia; Orpheon, the great serpent; Thetis, Hecate; Polyhymnia, a muse; Pluto, Triton, president of the sea; Triton, genius; Achilles, and the faces, furies, and graces. This number is called wisdom because men organize the present, foresee the future, and benefit by the experiences of the past. It is cause of wisdom and understanding. The triad is the number of knowledge, music, geometry, and astronomy, and the science of the celestials and terrestrials. Pythagoras taught that the cube of this number had the power of the lunar circle. The cube of 3? Okay. The sacredness of the triad and its symbol, the triangle, is derived from the fact that it is made up of the monad and the duad. The monad is the symbol of the Divine Father and the duad of the Great Mother. The triad being made of these two is therefore androgynous, and is symbolic of the fact that God gave birth to his worlds out of himself, who, in his creative aspect, is always symbolized by the triangle. The monad passing into the duad was thus capable of becoming the parent of progeny, for the duad was the womb of Meru, which, within the world, was incubated and within which still exists an embryo. It is important to note right here that it just said that the one is masculine, and before it said it was androgynous and hermaphroditic. Direct contradiction within itself, of itself, automatically disproves anything, including the Bible. The tetrad, 4, was esteemed by the Pythagoreans as the primogenial number, the root of all things, the fountain of nature, and the most perfect number. All tetrads are intellectual and have an emergent order and encircle the world as the imperium passes through it. Why the Pythagoreans express God as a tetrad is explained in a sacred discourse ascribed to Pythagoras, wherein God is called the number of numberers. This is because the decad, or 10, is composed of 1, 2, 3, and 4. The number 4 is symbolic of God because it is symbolic of the first 4 numbers. Moreover, the tetrad is the center of the week, being halfway between 1 and 7. The tetrad is also the first geometric solid. Pythagoras maintained that the soul of man consists of a tetrad, the 4 powers of the soul being mind, science, opinion, and sense. That's not actually far off from what I have in the MBTI playlist, right? We deal with 4 variables that are primary in the MBTI playlist. Let's talk about it real quick, right? I ask 5 questions. And of those 5 questions, the first 2 are this: are you things or ideas, which is mind or science? And then it is, if you are those things, is it new or old? And then it's, if you are new or old, who do you do it for, yourself or for someone else? And then it is, how do you go about it, right? Is it thinking, is it flexible, or is it rigid? And that is opinion and sense. Is it based upon the hard thoughts, or is it based upon the feelings? Opinion versus sense. Sense being, in this case, the hard facts. And so that would be rigidity. Now, there is a 5th variable in there, which is informative versus direct. But out of the 5 questions, 2 of them are right here. The 4 powers of the soul being mind, science, opinion, and sense. And the way that my MBTI works is by figuring out which of those you in particular pay attention to. The tetrad connects all beings, elements, numbers, and seasons, nor can anything be named which does not depend upon the tetrax. It is the cause and maker of all things, the intelligible God, author of celestial and sensible good. Plutarch interprets this tetrax, which he said was also called the world, to be 36, consisting of the first 4 odd numbers added to the first 4 even numbers. Thus, 1 plus 3 plus 5 plus 7 is 16, 2 plus 4 plus 6 plus 8 is 20, and that equals 36. And again, this is, you're doing too much. Keywords given to the tetrad are impetuosity, strength, virility, two-mothered, and the key keeper of nature, because the universal constitution cannot be without it. It is also called harmony and the first profundity. The following deities partook of the nature of the tetrad: Hercules, Mercury, Vulcan, Bacchus, and Urania, one of the muses. The triad represents the primary colors and the major planets, while the tetrad represents the secondary colors and the minor planets. From the first triangle come forth the seven spirits, symbolized by the triangle and a square. These, together, form the Masonic apron. The pentad, 5, is the union of an odd and an even number, 3 and 2. Among the Greeks, the pentagram was a sacred symbol of light, health, and vitality. It also symbolized the fifth element, ether, because it is free from the disturbances of the 4 lower elements. It is called equilibrium because it divides the perfect number 10 into 2 parts. The pentad is symbolic of nature, for when multiplied by itself it returns into itself, just as grains of wheat, starting in the form of a seed, pass through nature's processes and reproduce the seed of the wheat as the ultimate form of their own growth. Other numbers multiplied by themselves produce other numbers, but only 5 and 6 multiplied by themselves represent and retain their original number as the last figure in their products. Complicated for no reason. The pentad represents all the superior and inferior beings. It is sometimes referred to as the Hierophant or the priest of the mysteries because of its connection with the spiritual ethers, by means of which mystic development is attained. Key words of the pentad are reconciliation, alternation, marriage, immortality, cordiality, providence, and sound. Among the deities who partook of this nature of the pentad were Pallas, Nemesis, Bast, Venus, Androgynia, Cerithia, and the messengers of Jupiter. The tetrad, the elements, plus the monads equal the pentad. The Pythagoreans taught that the elements of earth, fire, air, and water were permeated by a substance called ether, the basis of vitality and life. Therefore they chose the 5-pointed star, or pentagram, as the symbol of vitality, health, and interpenetration. It was customary for the philosophers to conceal the element of earth under the symbol of a dragon, and many of the heroes of antiquity were told to go forth and slay the dragon. Hence, they drove their sword, the monad, into the body of the dragon, the tetrad. This resulted in the formation of the pentad, a symbol of the victory of the spiritual nature over the material nature. The 4 elements are symbolized in the early biblical writings as the 4 rivers that poured out of the Garden of Eden. The elements themselves are under the control of the composite cherubim of Ezekiel. The Pythagoreans held the hexad, 6, to represent, as Clement of Alexandria conceived, the creation of the world according to both the prophets and the ancient mysteries. It was called by the Pythagoreans the perfection of all parts. This number was particularly sacred to Orpheus and also to the fate Lachesis and the muse Thalia. It was called the form of forms, the articulation of the universe, and the maker of the soul. Among the Greeks, harmony and the soul were considered to be similar in nature because all souls are harmonic. The hexad is also the symbol of marriage because it is formed by the union of 2 triangles, one masculine and the other feminine. Among the keywords given to the hexad are time, for it is the measure of duration, panacea because health is equilibrium and the hexad is a balanced number, the world because the world, like the hexad, is often seen to consist of contraries by harmony, omnisufficient because its parts are sufficient for totality, 3 plus 2 plus 1 equals 6, unwearied because it contains the elements of immortality. By the Pythagoreans, the heptad, 7, was called worthy of veneration. It was held to be the number of a religion because man is controlled by 7 celestial spirits, to whom it is proper for him to make offerings. It was called the number of life because it was believed the human creatures, born in the 7th month of embryonic life, usually lived, but those born in the 8th month often died. One author called it the motherless virgin, Minerva, because it was not born of a mother but out of the crown or the head of the father, the monad. Keywords of the heptad are fortune, occasion, custody, control, government, judgment, dreams, voices, sounds, and that which leads all things to their end. Deities whose attributes were expressed by the heptad were Aegis, Osiris, Mars, and Clio, one of the muses. Among the many ancient nations, the heptad is a sacred number. The Elohim of the Jews were supposedly 7 in number. They were the spirits of the dawn, more commonly known as the archangels controlling the planets. The 7 archangels, with the 3 spirits controlling the sun in its threefold aspect, constitute the 10, the sacred Pythagorean decad. The mysterious Pythagorean tetrachus, or 4 rows of dots increasing from 1 to 4, was symbolic of the stages of creation. The great Pythagorean truth that all things in nature are regenerated through the decad, or 10, is subtly preserved in Freemasonry through these grips being effected by the uniting of 10 fingers, 5 on the hand of each person. The 3, spirit, mind, and soul, descend into the 4, the world, the sum being the 7, or the mystic nature of man, consisting of a 3-fold spiritual body and a 4-fold material form. These are symbolized by the cube, which has 6 surfaces and a mysterious 7th point within. The 6 surfaces are the directions north, east, west, northeast, south, west, up and down, or front, back, left, right, above, and below, or, again, earth, fire, air, water, spirit, and matter. In the midst of these stands the One, which is the upright figure of man, from whose center is the cube. In the cube radiate 6 pyramids, and from this comes the great occult axiom: the center is the father of the directions, the dimensions, and the distances. The heptad is the number of the law, because it is the number of the makers of cosmic law, the 7 spirits before the throne. The ogdoad, 8, was sacred because it was the number of the first cube, which form had 8 corners, and was the only evenly even number under 10. 1, 2, 4, 8, 4, 2, 1. Thus, 8 is divided into 2 4s. Each 4 is divided into 2 2s, and each 2 is divided into 2 1s, thereby re-establishing the monad. Among the keywords of the ogdoad are love, counsel, prudence, law, and convenience. Among the divinities partaking of its nature were Paranormia, Rhea, Sibyl, Cadmea, Dindymene, Orsia, Neptune, Themis, and Euterpe, a muse. The ogdoad was a mysterious number associated with the Eleusinian mysteries of Greece and the Kabiri. It was called the Little Holy Number. It derived its form partly from the twisted snakes of the caduceus of Hermes, and partly from the serpentine motion of the celestial bodies, possibly also from the moon's nodes. The Ennead, 9, was the first square of an odd number, 3 times 3. It was associated with failure and shortcomings because it fell short of the perfect number, 10, by 1. It was called the number of man because of the 9 months of his embryonic life. Among its keywords are ocean and horizon, because to the ancients these were boundless. The Ennead is the limitless number because there is nothing beyond it but the infinite 10. It was called boundary or limitation because it gathered all numbers within itself. It was called the sphere of the air because it surrounded the numbers as air surrounds the earth. Among the gods and goddesses who partook in greater or lesser degree of its nature were Prometheus, Vulcan, Juno, and his sister. Juno, the sister and wife of Jupiter, Paean and Aglaia, Tritogenia, Curetes, Proserpine, Hyperion, and Terpsichore, a muse. The 9 was looked upon as evil because it was an inverted 6. According to the Eleusinian mysteries, it is the number of the spheres through which the consciousness passed on its way to birth. Because of its close resemblance to the spermatozoon, the 9 has been associated with germinal life. The decad, 10, according to the Pythagoreans, is the greatest of numbers, not only because it is the tetrus, the 10 dots, but because it comprehends all arithmetic and harmonic proportions. Pythagoras said that 10 is the nature of number, because all nations reckon to it, and when they arrive at it, they return to the monad. The decad was called both heaven and the world, because the former includes the latter. Being a perfect number, the decad was applied by the Pythagoreans to those things relating to age, power, faith, necessity, and the power of memory. It was also called unwearied because, like God, it was tireless. The Pythagoreans divided the heavenly bodies into 10 orders. They also stated that the decade perfected all numbers and comprehended within itself the nature of odds and even, moved and unmoved, good and ill. They associated his power with the following deities: Atlas, for he carried the numbers on his shoulders; Urania; Mnemosyne, the sun; Phanes, and the one God. The decimal system can probably be traced back to the time when it was customary to reckon on the fingers, these being among the most primitive of calculating devices and still in use among many aboriginal peoples. And so ends our study of Pythagoras and the numbers. I have probably stepped on several people's toes who would actually pay somewhat attention to this. So I'm going to throw you a bone. We're going to talk about some numbers real quick. I have it wrote down here, so I'm pulling it up. But the numbers are important, right? We talked about this particular sequence of numbers. The 8 is important. More important than the 10 for spiritual matters. There are 7 chakras inside you and 1 outside of you, which makes 8. The 7 within and the 1 beginning the new cycle of the more. The number 1 represents realization. It is realizing that you are here. The number 2 is choice. It is realizing that you can do good or evil. The number 3 is an understanding that you have things to learn. Once you make a choice, you have to learn about the choice that you made. Number 4 is the understanding of that choice. So you have made the choice, you have learned about it, now you understand it. 5 is going to be change. It is go forth into the world and apply this thing that you have just learned. 6 is overcoming. Through the challenge of going forth, you have now overcome the challenge. That is 6. And 7 is the number of completion. It is the point at which you have gone forth and taught the thing, or done the thing, or completed the thing. And then 8 begins once again the cycle. It is the beginning again. It is back to 1. 1 and 8 are equals. Spiritually, not in math. 10 is for math. If you want to figure out the exact size of something, the decimal system is going to get you there, not the hexadecimal. But if you're wanting to do computing, you're going to need to know 8-bit. That is because the foundations for becoming are 8 sourced. It is not 10 sourced. You have 10 fingers, you have 10 toes, but that don't mean a damn thing as far as that goes. You have 7 internal chakras and 1 external. That equals 8. That is the creation. That is the power. That is the magic. That is how all of the things come together. From the 1, you get the 3 in the 8, right? The 1 that is all. The 3 that is the Trinity. The mind, the soul, the part that makes the decision, the body, the part that you navigate through the reality, and the spirit, which is the becoming. It is the part that you don't have the control over. It is the divine spark that changes your food into energy. It's the part that puts the oxygen that you breathe into your lungs. You don't have full control of that, but there are parts of it that you can control. I fully believe in energetic investment, right? What we do here, almost nobody is going to watch this video. I am still going to dispense knowledge in it. I have several videos that are like that. There are a lot of them that I do not expect to ever get any views, but I had to do it to invest the energy. I believe that investment in energy is a real thing. I believe that manipulation of energy is a real thing. And those are both governed by the number 8. 1, 3, and 8 together is the number of manifestation. 138 is probably one of the most important complicated numbers that we have. But you don't have to add the parts together, right? It is the three operating together as one that makes it important. If you add 1, 3, and 8, you get a number, but it doesn't matter. You can further reduce that number, but it doesn't matter. The 1, 3, and 8 are the important parts. 138 together is physically manifesting. That is how it happens. It is through the number 138. But you don't have to hold the number 138 in your mind. You have to know the mechanics behind it. We've got a playlist for that. But it doesn't hold power in and of itself. It is a key. It is an indicator for you to do things with. But the only thing that holds power is you, right? It's me. It's us as the individualized spark of divinity. The three into one, governed by the 8. And that's where I'm going to go ahead and wrap this one up. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment, not too much confusion, and a bit of levity to a complicated set of topics. I am not in any means or by any manner trying to discount math, right? Math is important. Discovering math, that was important. Figuring out decimals and how prime numbers originate and all of these things are important, but they're not spiritually important, right? If you are using 10 because it is the perfect number and that's the only number that you will use, you're going to mess up. If you use 8 because it is the number of creation and that's the only number you use, you're going to mess up. If you use 1 because it is the number of God and it's the only number you use, you're going to mess up. You have to be balanced in all things, which means know about math, know about the powers of creation, know about why the numbers are important, but don't try to read into the numbers too much. Now, if you're doing tarot, right, and you're reading the current situation, you're getting the current energies, and those numbers, those can be important. Even if you have to add 16 into 7 and find out that it's a completion number, right? That makes sense. That works. But if you're trying to do the Bible code stuff, you're doing it wrong. You really are. You can find whatever you want. There are patterns in all kinds of things. That is something that I know for sure. But not every pattern is important. Some of the patterns are there to distract you. Some of the patterns are there to keep you back. Some of the patterns were put in place by the control systems, which are very much trying to keep you from your full potential. If you like what I'm doing here, let me know down below. Give me a like, share, and a sub. Throw me a comment if you agree or disagree. If it stays respectful, it gets to stay up. And if you really like what I'm doing here, hit me with that super thanks. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you are here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pit Steak. Peace.